Welcome back to Haven't Read It. Today we're going to read some Malicious Compliance. To start with, first story of the day, Real Car in Children's Room. I'm not sure if this is the right sub, but it's too good not to share. A friend of mine told me this episode from childhood. The house he lived in with his parents was on a curve. It was the main road to a huge disco. You can imagine how it continues. His room faced the street. For a while, everything went well until almost every other weekend, a car couldn't make the curve and crashed into the house. So he has stories about how he'd been woken up by a car in his childhood room. Unfortunately, most of the cars weren't broken enough, so the drivers fled. Since there were no perpetrators, his parents were left with the costs. They wrote to the city asking them to do something to make the curve safer. Of course, nothing happened. Then they came up with an idea. Since the city isn't changing anything about the curve, our problem is that the perpetrators can keep driving. They laid tree trunks across the lawn in front of the house. The solution to the problem began the very next weekend. Cars continued to drive into the house, but the trees had damaged the axles of all the cars so badly that they were no longer drivable. This led to two results. All damage was paid for from now on, and, strangely enough, the number of accidents on his bed has been decreased, so that only 2 or 3 cars got stuck in the tree trunks a year. Note, of course my friend didn't have his childhood room facing the front the whole time. After the accident started, he had another room in the house. Yeah, it's probably the same people making that same curve and running into the house. That's funny. Top comment. When you say drivers fled, you mean with the cars, right? So the parental units come downstairs to investigate the noise and find a car-sized hole in the wall but no car and no driver? Someone responds saying, that must be what they meant. My dad had a cop get mad at him because they couldn't charge some idiot with drunk driving unless he was behind the wheel when the cops got to him. My dad had helped him out of the car in case it blew up or something. He was an eyewitness that the car was driven by that guy, but the cop yelled at him anyway. That's crazy. Second top comment. I would have set up a sturdy barricade after the first incident for safety reasons alone. Someone says, once is an accident, twice is a coincidence, 3 times as a pattern. I remember hearing a story similar to this a few years ago. Guy lived on a corner of a Y-shaped intersection, an older brick house with old-style brick fence. Similar thing happened. People not paying attention to the intersection or driving too fast would crash through his brick fence and a few times even hit the house. Fortunately, the front part that was hit was a converted veranda, so no major damage to the house as such. Got sick of the accidents and repair costs, so redid the brick fence, but put some thick steel supports right in the middle of the fence, hidden behind bricks. No more cars getting into the house, only the occasional broken brick needing to be replaced. Someone says, brick fence? You mean a wall? That's what I was thinking. This looks interesting. r/boomers being fools. Boomer guy thinks that it will soon be required by law for any unmarried and childless people 40 and under to just fall in line and do it, thanks to Trump. So the 74-year-old man who is thrice divorced with 4 LC kids and a few grandkids is a huge Trumper. Was a liberal damn until the Tea Party movement, though. For some weird reason, he thinks it should be law for all hetero and even bi people to just have kids and marry people of the opposite sex because it is God's will for us to populate the earth. He thinks Trump will sign a law to make it the case sometime this year, and he can't wait for that to happen. These people are nuts. Let's see what the top comments are. It's like The Handmaid's Tale is their effing wet dream. Someone responds saying, every dystopian society warning story ever written was created because the scenario depicted was somebody's wet dream. Oh, man. Yo, they're going to outlaw wet dreams, too. Oh, man. I heard that from Shoe on Head, that someone wanted to ban self-pleasure because it doesn't lead to a baby. And make it illegal. Can you imagine if a wet dream was made illegal? You have no choice. Every man's going to prison. Next top comment. Watch me actually disembowel myself instead of being forced to marry a man. LOL. Someone else says, watch me rip out my uterus and feed it to a coyote before I allow a man to get me pregnant. Already vasectomized. Revolt. He just wants to watch people F. Old weirdo. That is so true. Oh yeah, this is definitely it. He thinks Trump will sign law to make it the case sometime this year, and he can't wait for that to happen. He's probably hoping that someone's child will be forced to be his bride. That is so true. These people are so delusional. Here's one from r/antiwork. It's just business. The easiest way to treat people like garbage and convince yourself it's for the better. My dad was blindsided by his long-term employer today and fired 3 years from retirement. He waited 7 years after he was promised to succeed the former acting CEO for the position, only to then be fired prematurely. When he informed his boss he'd written something to send to the employees, his boss responded, KK, no, thanks so much for your cooperation. No respect whatsoever. The reasons given are complete lies, and because he gets a severance package, he should consider himself lucky. Because not seeing the people he's seen every day for 30 years doesn't matter. He's been compensated. No questions to ask. It's just business. The easiest way to treat people like garbage and convince yourself it's for improvement. I'm just saying that my parents' generation are paying for the propaganda that they were fed before the internet. When everyone respected authority and did whatever they could to please the man, only to get fucked over by the same people. If that's what his company was like, I know he's been let go because he doesn't align with the company anymore, and thank God for that. Full disclosure that my father is in a good position financially, regardless, and I know that for many people, this situation could be much worse, but I still felt called to share. No one's safe from being fired at any point, for any reason or no reason. Our fourth story today will be from Boomers Being Fools. Well, it finally happened at a Mexican restaurant. Well, just now I called a boomer racist in front of him. Context, I'm at a Mexican restaurant sitting at the bar. In walks a bunch of boomers and order drinks. About 5 minutes ago, one of the boomers comes up and asks for a small glass. The manager gets a small glass mug, and the boomer says, no, a glass, in a smug smiling tone, and the bartender is searching. He repeats again, I need a glass. I look up at him, and he gives me a smirk that only my dog makes when she treats and tries to laugh with me. I say out loud, you're being racist. He keeps staring and smirking and said, what? I repeat, you're being racist. After he gets a non-mug glass, he comes to me and said, I'm what? I said, third time, racist. He just laughed and sat with his gaggle going straight to Trump talking. God, if it wasn't for that shit grin, I wouldn't have vented. Top comment says, you're being a racist. Do you not understand English? Or do you do your hearing aids need to be replaced? OP says, so good next time. Second top comment, I just want to emotionally hurt their feelings like a solid, your mother would have hated to see the shit stain you are today. She must be rolling in her grave. Or, hey buddy, do you need your dementia meds? You seem to have a hard time pronouncing glass regularly. Of course, they could get physical, so warning. OP responds, they might be emboldened, but I'm radicalized. I'm calling shit out now. Don't care if I'm banned from every place that hides fascism. More restraint than I would have had. I'm starting to be more vocal now since November. Even after the talk, my heart was racing a bit. Gotta get the nerve muscles going to this decade. Final story for today from Malicious Compliance. Time is a concept. Just after the invention of the printing press, I worked for a small but highly respected academic publisher here in the UK. I was part of the sales team, crisscrossing the country. I don't know why I'm laughing so much. Visiting universities and bookshops promoting her titles. It was a good life, before even car phones. Never mind mobiles. Once we were out on the road, we were pretty much our own bosses. Our sales manager had done the same job, knew how things worked, and was perfectly happy to allow us to make our own arrangements and decisions, as long as our territories were profitable year on year, and they were. Then the stars realigned, and we were taken over by a much larger publisher. So now, instead of pretty much knowing everyone in the company, it was just a voice at the end of the phone when we needed to get something sorted. As is often the way with such large organizations, it ran on tram tracks. For example, as reps, we had company cars, for which previously there had been a set budget and we could have whatever we wanted as long as it fell within the financial restraints. Not now. There was a choice of 3, and that was that. Came the time when they decided that company-wide people were not using their time efficiently, especially with regard to meetings. Thus, highly expensive consultants were drafted in, and one of their recommendations was that every single employee, should go on a time management course. It was just the merest coincidence that this consultancy also provided the course. Well, would you look at that? Eventually, our sales team got the word, and we had to jump through these particular hoops. In vain, we pointed out that we were not office-based, so we rarely had meetings, and if we did, they were organized and run by somebody else. We could hardly tell a customer or university academic that they were taking too long. And could we please go a bit faster? And finally, time management for us was avoiding traffic jams and roadworks so as to get to our next appointment on time. Until matter transfer was developed, no course in the world was going to improve that situation. As you could probably guess, this fell on deaf ears. There could be no exceptions. The trams were headed down those tracks with no possibility of stopping. Somehow this course lasted 3 days. I have no idea how, as most of it consisted of stating the blindly obvious. In addition, there were 3 traveling days at each end, as all 3 days were 9 to 5. So the 4 of us had most of the week in a 4-star hotel with virtually unlimited food and drink, gaining nothing but weight from the whole experience. I can only guess what the cost was to the company. Even at those long ago prices, it had to be a long way into 4 figures, plus the time off the road. As for a week, the sales team had not sold a single book to a single bookshop. We were supposed to write follow-ups detailing just what we had gotten out of the course, but after discussion with our sales manager, this requirement was quietly dropped. Probably just as well. Top comment. Efficiency consultants. Anything but what they say they are. Those that can do, those that can't consult or train. Those that can't coach sit high in the nosebleeds and heckle. Second top comment. I have a really old battered Bible from 1844 with a handwritten name, month, and year, 1893. Reading about a bookseller that travels to bookstores in person in order to secure orders reminded me of that book simply because, other than that one name, I have no idea who else it came in contact with in its 141-year history. This thought, while only lasting a few minutes, was far better than the time spent in being lectured at with management that led to a 0 sales week, plus the cost of accommodation and food. Absolutely crazy and myopic. Someone responds saying, "Thanks for using the word myopic. My dad used to say that the people who only spoke or thought about one language had monosyllabic myopia. It's hard to understand in our culture if you don't understand some of their language." Someone says, invented in 1440 during the age of alchemy and leeches. Leeches are still used successfully to treat sepsis and poisons in a particular area. That is true. And transplants. It's a shame you didn't get to write that up when you got out of the course. Would have been fun to have a bunch of people turn in papers titled some variant of "What did I learn from this course?" and an otherwise blank page. This person responds to, "Mere coincidence that this consultancy also provided the course. A consultant is someone who charges you $500 an hour to borrow your watch so they can tell you what time it is." Oh man. It's so if it goes wrong, they blame the consultants, not management. Oh man, thanks for listening, guys. Leave a comment. I'll read them. Looking forward to them. I'll see you guys in the next one.